Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Soul Land 2 Peerless Tang Men based on novel. So let's start. Long Aotian's eyes were still closed, and it was evident that he had been affected by the flashbangs before. However, he suddenly erupted as Bei Bei and the two others surrounded him, and his position switched 3 times in a row before he forced them back with forceful retaliations. Every position he chose was exceptionally precise, and his eruption was so quick that Bei Bei and the others were still a step behind even with Huo Yuhao's spiritual detection. Could it be that his unity of heaven and man wasn't affected by how chaotic the battlefield was? That wasn't possible. Xiao Xiao didn't retreat as Long Aotian suddenly charged towards her, because she was clear that the Body Sect's other team members were behind her. Huo Yuhao and He Kai-tu were currently holding them back, and she would block their firepower if she moved back. She would also find herself in a more perilous situation. The 3 Soul Crush cauldrons collapsed together, and an indescribable majesty was released. 3 cauldrons merged into one, and the enormous cauldron boomed deafeningly as it crashed onto the ground. This humongous cauldron blocked Long Aotian's attack. The large cauldron buzzed and trembled, but a black light shot into the sky, and lights flickered as Xiao Xiao disappeared inside. Long Aotian could only see her 4th soul ring sparkling. National treasure, Cauldron's sovereign. This attack didn't just draw upon the 3 Soul Crush cauldron's strength, it also borrowed upon the national fate that existed discreetly in the air. This aura was so powerful that even somebody like Long Aotian was suppressed in an instant. His unity of heaven and man was extremely reliant on aura, and his soul power had been weakened after repelling 3 people in a row. Xiao Xiao actually defended herself against his attack. Xiao Xiao's aura soared as she disappeared into her cauldron's sovereign, and a black whirlpool gradually appeared over the enormous cauldron. 3 intense explosions detonated with loud booms, her 3 Soul Crush cauldron the epicenter, and 3 black halos rippled outward. The other team members from the Body Sect, who had fended off Huo Yuhao and He Kai-tu's combined efforts, rushed forward, and were pouncing forward when an indescribable and formidable impact force smacked them in the face. Every single one of them was thrown into the air when they tried to block this sudden force. National treasure, Cauldron's supremacy, and Cauldron's quaking tremble. 3 skills fused into one. Both Xiao Xiao and Huo Yuhao were Elder Xian students, and even though they weren't Soul Emperors yet, how could they lose to others in terms of fighting strength and control over their martial souls? Even Long Aotian was sent stumbling backwards from this sudden eruption. All 3 circles were equally powerful. If somebody weaker had to absorb these shockwaves, that person would have been sent flying through the air, or been locked in place. Xiao Xiao relied on her sudden eruption to buy enough time for her companions. Wang Donga was in position. She plummeted from the sky, and her wings were tinged with sharp bluish-golden hues as she slashed at Princess Wei Na. Wei Na seemed like she had already seen Wang Donga coming, and her feet tapped the ground lightly as she drifted forward. She turned back and glanced at Wang Donga at the same time. Wang Donga saw a pair of brilliant silver eyes, and a silver will rose up from behind Wei Na's head. Everything around Wang Donga seemed to twist and become surreal, and an intense dizziness shot into her brain. This is... But in the next moment, a piercing, needle-like pain shook Wang Donga back to her senses. Huo Yuhao's spiritual interference was there to help her. However, Princess Wei Na borrowed this tiny pause to dash into her companion's protection. Everything happened very quickly, and Huo Yuhao could see through many things as the main control-type Soul Master. How could Long Aotian suddenly erupt and repel Shusansha, Bei Bei, and Jiang Nan Nan as if he could see into the future? The reason was simple. Princess Wei Na wasn't just a healing-type Soul Master for the Snowdemon Sect's team, she was also a control-type Soul Master. Her abilities were spiritual, though her other martial soul wasn't her eyes. It should be her brain. There was no question that the brain was one of the most important components of a human body. A human's spiritual sea and a human's spirit were contained inside the brain. There was no question that the brain's abilities were spiritual type. Princess Wei Na actually had twin martial souls, and her second martial soul was a powerful body soul, her brain. She had used her mighty spiritual power to aid Long Aotian before this. However, from what the Tang Sect could observe from the Body Sect's other team members, Princess Wei Na couldn't help several people at once like Huo Yuhao could, but only one person at a time. Huo Yuhao made all these judgments in an instant. It seemed as if the Tang Sect was in a disadvantageous position, and the reason was simple: their formation. Bei Bei, Shu Sansha, and Jiang Nan Nan were charging forward once more. Xiao Xiao was deep inside enemy lines, and even though she had erupted forcefully to repel her opponents, she was still surrounded. Wang Donga was behind their opponent's entire team, and this meant both girls were separated from their companions. This situation gave their adversaries an opportunity to break them down one by one. The battlefield began to change once more. Dense black light poured out, and Shu Sanshi's sixth soul ring sparkled. It didn't take long for his Xuanwu domain to appear once more in the arena. Thick black light seemed to eclipse the sun as it blanketed the entire stage. All 6 of the Body Sect's team members immediately found themselves in a suffocating and stifling state. When Shu Sansha unleashed his Xuanwu's domain, a ghastly pale light burst out from Huo Yuhao's fortress. Mass enfeeblement. Domains were undoubtedly used for crowd control, and the Body Sect's entire team was now slowed down with the help of Huo Yuhao's mass enfeeblement and Shu Sanshi's Xuanwu domain. Light burst out from behind Wang Donga, and her flying-type soul tool spurted continuously as it propelled her into the sky. Wang Donga unleashed 3 hexagram arrays behind her, and her light of the butterfly goddess rained down on her opponents. In terms of position and cultivation, ganging up on Xiao Xiao was the best decision the Body Sect could make, and that was what they did. However, the 3 hexagram arrays that Wang Donga unleashed were positioned around Xiao Xiao with her in the middle, and 3 circles formed an arc with her in the middle. The youth called Ji Yu Tong from the Body Sect suddenly turned around and looked up at Wang Donga. 2 brilliant white beams blasted from his eyes as his first, second, third, and fourth soul rings all lit up at the same time. The white beams immediately switched colors in order from red to orange, yellow, green, blue, and then to purple after they left his eyes. 2 silver-white eyes appeared behind his back. This was yet another individual with a body soul that had gone through a second awakening at the white-silver level. At this moment, there were 2 people from the Body Sect's 7 team members who had displayed white-silver second awakenings, Long Aotian and Ji Yu Tong. Wei Na's body soul was her brain, and there was no question that her second awakening was also at the white-silver level. 3 white-silver second awakenings. The elites of the Body Sect's younger generation were all gathered in this place. Wang Donga's expression changed a little as the 2 formidable beams came straight for her. Even though her opponent only had 5 soul rings, this attack wasn't easy to deal with. Wang Donga's 5th soul ring sparkled, and her frame became completely transparent, the goddess of light's possession. Radiant and dazzling golden flames glowed on her both hands as she pushed out. Boom! Light rippled in all directions, as Wang Donga was instantly thrown back horizontally even though she was flying upwards. Her entire body was covered with a 7-colored layer of light, and her flying-type soul tool was extinguished at the same time. It looked like her soul power had been completely arrested. Fortunately, the Xuanwu domain had been completed. Black light surged as Wang Donga's body disappeared among the black waves. This was a domain strength, and the person who unleashed this domain was the dictator of all things within it. Many different stronger abilities had to be used to break apart a domain. The battle on the other side had also reached its climax. Long Aotian was once more forcing his way out of the Xuanwu domain, and wanted to use his transformation of heaven and earth once again. However, Shu Sansha appeared in the sky and forcefully blocked his attack with his Xuanwu shield, holding him back to the point where Long Aotian couldn't break through at all. Bei Bei rushed to Xiao Xiao's side, and with the help of Wang Donga's hexagram array, blocked their opponent's assault. The Eye of Terror that He Kai-Tu had been setting up in the sky was also complete at this point. He switched to his Gigant lightning cannon, and fired 1 shot behind Xiao Xiao to buy Bei Bei some time. Over on the Body Sect side, 2 enormous wings extended from Chen Yu's back. His martial soul was actually wings. It was something that shouldn't be seen on a human body. Chen Yu's wings flapped as he soared into the sky, forcefully repelling the Xuanwu domain's black waves as he lunged to one side. He then slashed out with his wings, as if they were 2 giant axes. Wang Donga reappeared inside the Xuanwu domain, lashing out with her wings at the same time and colliding with Chen Yu. Chen Yu was also a Soul Emperor, and their wings clashed again and again. It was clear that Chen Yu had located Wang Donga's position with Wei Na's help. The Body Sect had 1 fewer person, but only Long Aotian and Wang Yangfeng had expended soul power among their 6 remaining team members. Long Aotian was incredibly powerful, so whatever he expended didn't affect him much. Over on the Tang Sect's team, Huo Yuhao seemed to have consumed a little too much. His all-terrain self-driving fortress was firing hysterically, but he had stopped using his own abilities. Wang Donga retreated as she fought, and inched closer to Huo Yuhao. Jiang Yishi and Jiang Nannan were fighting it out apart from the main battlefield. Jiang Nannan's body was soft and flexible, and she was adept at close combat. Jiang Yishi's martial soul was her hands, and her hands transformed into claws that possessed formidable destructive power. Both of them were soul kings, and it was hard for either side to gain the upper hand. The battle had progressed to this point, and it seemed as if both teams were no longer cooperating with one another. This was because their individual abilities were simply too strong, and they couldn't completely cooperate with each other more often than not. This also happened because both teams were trying to sever each other's teamwork and cooperation. Bei Bei and Xiao Xiao charged forward at the same time, and went up against Ji Yutong and Wang Yangfeng. 2 versus 2, and neither party had the upper hand. Wang Yangfeng was a little drained from his battle with Huo Yuhao, and it was clear that he hadn't completely recovered, while Ji Yutong's long-range attacks were exceptionally powerful. Ji Yutong's martial soul was his eyes, but the path that he had decided to take was drastically different from Huo Yuhao's. His eyes were his strongest weapons, and every single beam that was fired from his eyes was accompanied by alternately sparkling soul rings. Wang Donga retreated as she continued fighting. Her movements were a little lackadaisical and slow, because she was still affected by Ji Yutong's previous attack. Otherwise, how could she be forced back again and again by Chen Yu? The Eye of Terror was finally in place in the sky, and intense light began to condense towards it. The Body Sect's entire team instantly felt the immense pressure coming from above them. However, the Tang Sect seemed to have been suppressed in every individual or group combat that was taking place in several different places at once. They seemed like they were in a dire situation, and even Jing Zhon was unsure which side had the upper hand at this moment. There was a boom of impact, and a fountain of blood spurted from Shu Sanxi's mouth as he was sent hurtling through the air. There was still quite a gap between him and Long Aotian's strength, and he also had to maintain his Xuanwu domain to control their opponents. Even though Sanxia had Huo Yuhao's spiritual detection to warn him, Long Aotian finally found and wounded him with pure brute force. Long Aotian wasn't in good shape, either. His face looked a little pale, and his breathing was conspicuously heavier and thicker than before. The injury that he had sustained from the Yama's invitation was continuously affecting him, while his soul power was being consumed continuously. His current strength was far from his peak condition. Long Aotian spun around once he knocked Shu Sanxia away. Hurting Shu Sanxia like that was enough for him, and Long Aotian didn't have to pursue his opponent and break him down completely. Shu Sanxi's Xuanwu shield had brought a lot of trouble, and if he really wanted to defeat Shu Sanxia for good inside his Xuanwu domain, he would have to commit some time and energy even if he were in his peak condition. Long Aotian knew that he would have to pick apart the Tang Sect's team members one by one if the Snowdemon Sect was to win this match. Long Aotian chose Hikaitu as his target, because he was the only pure soul engineer in this fight, and also because Long Aotian wasn't far from his position. He pounced towards Hikaitu in a flash. Hikaitu grinned as he watched Long Aotian dash towards him. Hikaitu was the most unassuming one amongst the Shrek's 7 monsters. He hadn't fought much in the tournament's previous rounds, and the only thing he had done that caught the audience's attention was his Eye of Terror. Otherwise, he wasn't much to them, and not many people had noticed that he actually had 6 soul rings. Long Aotian chose him as his best chance at breaking through the Tang Sect, because he figured Hikaitu was probably the easiest to knock out, and also because his Eye of Terror in the sky was about to erupt. Wei Na signaled that to Long Aotian, and Long Aotian didn't want to give him that opportunity. Long Aotian's entire body sparkled with bright light, as he raised his enormous dark golden axes high into the sky as he charged forward, unleashing his berserk godslash. Long Aotian didn't use his other soul skills to boost his strength, conserving energy, but he entered his unity of heaven and man realm once more. Long Aotian had always looked down on soul engineers. From his perspective, soul engineers relied on many different tricks and shortcuts to raise their cultivation, so how could they compare to his soul power that he had obtained from pure hard work? Hikaitu actually laughed as he watched Long Aotian pounce towards him. He raised his hand, and a pale golden cigar appeared in his mouth as his 5th soul ring lit up. Hikaitu casually looked down and lit his cigar with a soul ray that was fired from his shoulder and took a deep puff. Long Aotian's ferocious berserk godslash arrived. A white light layer glowed on Hikaitu's body. It was his Class 6 protective soul barrier. An intense red light lit up on his chest at the same time. A cannon barrel with a mouth half a foot in diameter opened up on the armor at this chest area. Boom! Long Aotian's strike was fearsome and powerful, and Hikaitu's Class 6 protective soul barrier was blown to smithereens. Hikaitu only managed to slow Long Aotian's large axes for a single beat. Hikaitu sucked on his pale golden cigar ferociously in the next moment. A golden barrier bloomed from his body, and forcefully repelled Long Aotian's berserk godslash. Everyone could see the golden cigar in his mouth burn rapidly away, as his golden light barrier was struck. Half of it was gone after he took the berserk godslash. Was that a soul skill? Yes, that was Hikaitu's 5th soul skill, Invincible Barrier Golden Cigar. His cigar was his auxiliary martial soul, and even his companions weren't that willing to use it. But everything changed when his 5th soul skill appeared. This Invincible Barrier Golden Cigar's existence was far too invaluable for a food-type soul master. The Tang Sect had kept this a secret in the tournament, all the way until now. With this soul skill around, the Tang Sect didn't have to create any more invincible barriers. Hikaitu's current cultivation meant he could maintain his invincible barrier for 7 seconds, when he was using his 5th soul skill to defend himself. Furthermore, the soul power that was consumed during these 7 seconds was from the soul skill, and he didn't have to expend any more of his own soul power to maintain it. This effect was a lot better than the invincible barriers created by soul tools, but the regrettable thing was that this Invincible Barrier Golden Cigar would only exist for 2 hours after it was crafted. A lot of soul power was required to craft one, and this was the reason why Hikaitu was the only one who would use it in combat, even at a time like this. But it was enough. Long Aotian's expression froze when his axes bounced back, and he saw an insidious ball of red light erupt in front of him in the next moment. This red light swallowed up his entire body in an instant. Long Aotian had just unleashed a powerful soul skill, and he couldn't struggle out of it as his entire frame was swallowed inside a sphere of red light. Xingzhon, the unbreakable Doluo, who was also a Class 9 soul engineer, blurted out, "A Class 7 light of binding." Xingzhon felt an unprecedented astonishment after seeing this red sphere. He was awed by both teams before this, but his awe had stemmed from how powerful their martial souls were. The binding light that beamed out from Huo Yuhao's chest at this moment shook him to the core. Other than the fact that this binding light was a Class 7 soul tool, it was something that only the Sun Moon Empire possessed. It was very complicated to craft even one of these, and this soul tool had extremely high criteria for crafting materials and resources. Hikaitu could use his light of binding, and this meant that the Tang Sect had mastered this technique and this technology. This astounded the unbreakable Doluo even more than their formidable might and strength. The binding light would fire a single beam, and the target would be arrested and immobilized once struck. The target would be suppressed and held back by immense soul power, so binding lights could only be Class 7, at the very least. Class 7 binding lights had enough power to temporarily lock down an 8-ringed soul Doluo's abilities. The binding light's effects would also be removed if the target was attacked after he or she had been manacled, but the target would have to take the complete brunt of the attack as long as the target hadn't struggled out of the bind before it struck. Binding lights could be considered a favorite among the control-type soul tools that high-level soul masters used. One small change could affect the entire situation. The whole battlefield immediately transformed once Hikaitu unleashed his binding light. Nobody attacked Long Aotian at all, not even Hikaitu, but Shrek's 7 monsters suddenly flared up as a team. Huo Yuhao hadn't been doing much this entire time, but now he suddenly darted out from his all-terrain self-driving fortress. Shusansha had vomited blood from Long Aotian's attack before this, and jumped high into the air. Now, Huo Yuhao appeared and caught him before he channeled his mysterious underworld displacement. Black light surged as Shusansha and Wang Donga suddenly swapped places, and Wang Donga was now in front of Huo Yuhao. Wang Donga was already prepared, and she extended her arms and brought Huo Yuhao into her embrace. Huo Yuhao was on one side as his eyes twinkled with pale golden light. Wang Donga was on the other side, and her radiant wings stretched out behind her back, as she unleashed her martial soul, the radiant butterfly goddess. The area around them glowed as they both released their martial souls at the same time, and a unique radiance shimmered from their bodies. This light was very strange and unique, its color alternating between blue, purple, and gold. Dense light energy formed its core, and many strange soul power undulations were mixed up within it. A colossal projection appeared behind Wang Donga's back, a complete and magnificent radiant butterfly goddess. An enormous virtual vertical eye appeared behind Huo Yuhao. This vertical eye was dazzling gold in color, and its pupil shone with faint purple hues. Blinding blue, purple, and gold lights intertwined together to form a gigantic sphere of light that blasted down from the sky towards the ground in front of Long Aotian. Save Aotian! Princess Wei Na shouted at the top of her lungs. She didn't know what Huo Yuhao and Wang Donga were trying to do, but Huo Yuhao had finally exploded after holding back for such a long time. It was evident that their combined attack wouldn't be weak at all. However, Huo Yuhao and Wang Donga weren't the only two of Shrek's 7 monsters who burst into action. Shu Sanqi's Xuanwu shield flared with black light, after switching positions with Wang Donga, and multiple shields that glimmered with black light surrounded the winged Chen Yu and locked him in. Shu Sanxia withdrew his Xuanwu domain as he unleashed his Xuanwu shield formation, as his domain consumed too much soul power. Shu Sanxia had been wounded during his attempts to block off Long Aotian before this, but it was still quite impossible for Chen Yu to overcome Shu Sanqi's cultivation and break free of the barricade to help Long Aotian. Bei Bei exploded at the same time. A long and drawn-out dragon roar echoed across the arena, as Bei Bei's entire body seemed to stretch out. His bluish-purple lightning immediately began to sublimate, as dazzling golden light radiated from him, and golden dragon scales covered his entire body. Bei Bei's body quivered violently, as a vigorous and firm golden lightning streak blasted free from his body and transformed into a colossal lightning net. Bei Bei used this lightning net to stop Wang Yangfeng, who was on his way to lend Long Aotian a hand, right in his tracks. Bei Bei also unleashed his golden dragon head from one fist at the same time, and crushed the incoming beams from Jiyu Tong's eyes. Xiao Xiao's 3-live Soul Crush cauldron split into 3 once more and dropped to the ground, cauldron quake. She teamed up with Bei Bei and locked 2 more of the Body Sect's team members in place. Bei Bei's intense and biting lighting suppressed them so much that they couldn't unleash their Body Soul's second awakening, which was their strongest technique. Jiang Nan Nan flared up at the same time. She unleashed her 3rd soul skill, Instant Shift, and her 4th soul skill, Invincible Golden Body, at the same time, which allowed her to appear behind Jiang Ishi in an instant. Jiang Nan Nan took a direct hit from her opponent as she wrapped her legs around Jiang Ishi's waist, and her 5th soul ring glowed, Soft Bone Lock. 3 soul skills were discharged one after another, and Jiang Nan Nan immobilized Jiang Ishi in the blink of an eye. Hikaitu soul tools rained fire down on Wei Na like a meteor shower, forcing her to use her invincible barrier, because her companions weren't around to defend her. Only several seconds were required for the entire situation to change. They were just at an impasse of sorts, but every single member from the Body Sect was suppressed and stifled in this instant. How is this possible? Emotions and disbelief rose up in Wei Na's heart. There was no way she could believe, or accept that Shrek's 7 monsters could achieve such tacit understanding and chemistry all of a sudden from how chaotic things were before this. They hadn't communicated with one another at all before everything happened, so how could they all flare up at the same time, and how could they all choose different targets? Furthermore, their movements connected with one another so seamlessly that there were almost no loopholes or weaknesses at all. What was Shrek's 7 monsters' greatest strength in group battles? Rather, what was their core fighting strength? Why did they choose to go into the group round, even though they knew that every single member of the Body Sect was incredibly powerful? Shrek's 7 monsters' core fighting strength wasn't Bei Bei's Golden Holy Dragon, or Shu Sanqi's Xuanwu domain. Similarly, it wasn't Huo Yuhao and Wang Donga's martial soul fusion skill. It was the invisible and intangible spiritual detection that was shared amongst everyone during their group battles, and it was with this spiritual detection that everyone could achieve frightening chemistry and mutual understanding. This was their mightiest force, and it gave them the courage to challenge stronger opponents in a group battle. The Tang Sect's team had been probing their opponents from the very beginning, and they deliberately relaxed and separated themselves afterwards. Huo Yuhao had planned and created every single tactic and movement, from when they seemed like they lacked teamwork and were at a disadvantage, right up until this moment, when they all flared up at the same time. He only had one true goal: he wanted to take down the Body Sect's strongest member, Long Aotian. No matter how many hidden abilities Princess Wei Na possessed, and whether or not she was her team's core, her overall prowess was still a far cry from Long Aotian's. The most important result that Huo Yuhao wanted to achieve by taking down Long Aotian wasn't just to weaken the Body Sect's overall strength, he also wanted to attack their confidence. All the calm and composure from before was so that they could charge up for this moment's eruption. The blue, purple, and gold light sphere that Huo Yuhao and Wang Donga had fused into transformed into an enormous vertical eye in the same moment that it returned to the ground. This was Huo Yuhao's spirit eyes, and Wang Donga was supporting him. The enormous eye seemed deep and profound, and a boundless world seemed to appear if one gazed closely into it. In the next moment, a frightening mixture of blue, purple, and gold light shot out. This beam of light resembled a symphony of lights, as it fired straight out, and everywhere it passed by was tainted with a peculiar golden color. This included the separating layer that the unbreakable Doluo had laid out across the ground. Long Aotian was still struggling as hard as he could inside the red binding light that was keeping him down. He could feel that something was wrong, and he unleashed his strongest technique, his martial soul true body, in an attempt to break free from the binding light's manacles. But this Class 7 binding light was simply too powerful. The claim that it could temporarily restrict a soul Doluo's abilities wasn't just a myth, and even though Long Aotian had unleashed his martial soul true body, and his entire body had gone incandescent, he could only watch as the bindings around him slowly broke down. However, the multicolored beam had already arrived in front of him. This beam passed through him in the blink of an eye. Just when everyone from the body sect believed that this attack was focused on Long Aotian, the enormous, 3-meter-wide tricolored light beam instantly elongated, and almost split the competition stage in two. Jiang Nan still had Jiang Ishi immobilized with her soft bone lock, and disappeared in a flash through instant shift. Jiang Ishi couldn't even react, as she was swallowed by the tricolored light beam. The golden road amidst withering resplendence, Huo Yuhao and Wang Donga's first martial soul fusion skill. The binding light holding Long Aotian finally broke apart, but he had been transformed into a golden statue. He wasn't the only one. Jiang Ishi had also become a golden statue after she was struck by the golden road. Long Aotian was exceptionally powerful, but Huo Yuhao and Wang Donga both had twin martial souls, one was a soul emperor and the other a soul king. How could their combined efforts, their martial soul fusion skill, not be powerful? They had teamed up to defeat and best mighty soul sages before. The best way to fight against the golden road was to avoid being struck by it. In the end, the golden road couldn't lock onto a target. But once struck, martial soul true body, dispelled, martial soul, dispelled. Intense light and spiritual energies gravely corroded their bodies, which were frozen in place. The gigantic tricolored vertical eye reverted into a tricolored sphere, and the temperature in the air plummeted in the next moment. The tricolored sphere transformed once more, and black and white lights intertwined as a terrifying pressure was unleashed. Ice-cold frost and snow swept up as a black hammer appeared with transparent ultimate ice condensed on its surface. A huge blizzard immediately billowed around Long Aotian, with his body in the middle, and the freezing low temperature created another transparent layer of frost and ice on his body, which had already become a golden statue. A giant formed from frost and snow grasped an enormous, fearsome hammer, and it seemed like it was going to tear the world to pieces as it plunged down from the sky. This was the fusion between the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion and the Clear Sky Hammer. This was one of Huo Yuhao and Wang Donga's other martial soul fusion skills. Blaze amidst the frost, the Heavenly Emperor's Hammer. The Binding Light, the Golden Road, and the Heavenly Emperor's Hammer. These three supreme abilities were what Huo Yuhao had prepared to end Long Aotian. Huo Yuhao might not have been able to defeat Long Aotian even if his body was fully recovered one-on-one. However, Huo Yuhao and Wang Donga against Long Aotian in a 1 versus 2 situation meant that Long Aotian didn't stand a chance at all. Huo Yuhao's soul power was being consumed at an alarming rate, but Wang Donga was the main director now, and it wasn't very problematic for them to unleash two martial soul fusion skills at the same time. Long Aotian has been eliminated. Wei Na screamed at the top of her lungs, and her voice sounded piercing and shrill. Her exclamation was directed at the unbreakable Doluo, Jingzhon. How could she not tell that Long Aotian, whose martial soul was being stripped from his body, was absolutely unable to resist this attack? But Jingzhon seemed to be half a beat slower, and he was one step too slow to save Long Aotian. A sharp scream rang out from Wei Na's mouth, and the 5 soul rings on her body suddenly transformed at this moment. Her 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 1 black soul rings suddenly became 6 identical black soul rings, as the 4th of her new soul rings sparkled with black light. Everyone could see twisting and contorting waves ripple from her body amid her ear-piercing scream. A silver-white light sphere flickered behind her back, which seemed to be composed of countless rolls and folds. It was the shape of a brain. This was her 4th soul skill, Wail of the Banshee. It was a formidable soul skill that layered spiritual and sonic energies together, and it was a 10,000-year soul skill. Wei Na couldn't be bothered with anything else when she could tell that Xingzhong would be a little too late. She immediately unleashed a powerful ability that was the most likely to save Long Aotian, and couldn't be bothered with hiding her second martial soul's soul rings anymore. Everyone could tell from her second martial soul that she had only begun to attach soul rings to her spiritual type martial soul after she became a soul king or a soul emperor. Every single ring was a 10,000-year soul ring. Even though she could have done it better, this was enough. It was hard for soul masters with spiritual type martial souls to obtain suitable soul rings in the first place, Huo Yuhao being an obvious example. It was even harder to find 100,000-year soul rings. 100,000-year spiritual type soul beasts did exist, but every single one was exceptionally powerful, and that meant hunting and killing one was very challenging. It wasn't that easy for the body sect to find and kill soul beasts like that even with their host of powerful individuals, let alone finding and killing as many as 9 for Wei Na. The body sect was a sect, it didn't exist just for Wei Na herself, and even if they had the ability to help her accomplish all that, the sect's other members would call this unreasonable resource allocation into question. Therefore, Wei Na chose to attach soul rings to her second martial soul after she became a soul emperor, so that she could attain honor and glory for the Heavenly Soul Empire in this season's tournament. She was the Snowdemon Sect's second strongest team member after Long Aotian. Could her Whale of the Banshee stop Huo Yuhao and Wang Dong's Heavenly Emperor's hammer? Every single person who was currently locked in battle was affected by the twisting waves when they rippled outward. Wei Na couldn't be bothered with friendly fire because Long Aotian was in a perilous situation of life or death, and even her teammates were subject to this mass control type soul skill. Every single person subconsciously covered their ears as their minds temporarily blanked out, accompanied by a momentary weakness in their bodies. Xiao Xiao only had 5 soul rings, and she began to bleed from her nose. Jiang Nan was about to attack Jiang Yishi after the latter was struck by the golden road when she groaned, and her nose began to bleed as well. The body sect's team members had it a little better. They understood Wei Na well enough, and everyone made the necessary preparations. But even so, every single ability they were unleashing or channeling was interrupted. It was a pity that this mighty skill that had miraculous effects on everyone did nothing when it went up against the Heavenly Emperor's hammer. It couldn't shake the hammer at all. Huo Yuhao was also a spiritual type and control type soul master. His spirit eyes only had 5 soul rings, but what kind of soul rings were they? Without talking about his other soul rings, his first soul ring was a million-year soul ring, while his spiritual power had undergone multiple evolutions and was in the concrete immaterial realm. Furthermore, he was teaming up with Wang Dong in this attack. How could he be so easily shaken? Long Aotian's consciousness was still clear, but there was only one thought in his heart: it's over. The Heavenly Emperor's hammer loomed over him. He no longer had his martial soul to protect him, and ultimate ice had invaded his bone marrow, while the Golden Road's intense corrosive effects were encroaching frantically onto his wounded body. He would possibly have a chance to resist everything if he were in his peak condition, but now he could hear Wei Na's voice very clearly in his head. However, there was only sorrow in his heart. If somebody had told him before the tournament that he would die in combat, he would have been full of disbelief and disdain towards that comment. He had too much faith in his own strength and abilities, but everything that was happening before his eyes had rendered his mind completely blank and empty. It's over, everything's over. Wei Na's frantic attempt to save him hadn't slowed their opponents in the least. This video will end here.